Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And because we haven't had enough reruns in the past month and a half, we got another one, Primal Demon, which is the most recent rerun we have had thus far. So the amount of teams that have come out after are quite low. And this stage, particularly, is kind of annoying for a few different reasons. First off, it's an AoE stage, so if you have, the Primal Demon team and you don't have Diablo, you have Blanc and Jean, great. No, they're single targets, that's not going to help you that much. They all do kind of stupid things here. So they have synergy resistance, they seal your crit rate, so you can't forcibly crit. You can still hit that natural 2% chance, or whatever natural chance your unit has, but good fucking luck. They have ult resistance for pretty much up until the nuke turn on turn 8, so if you're trying to really burst it down, you're gonna need a lot of power. And combine that with synergy resistance, which takes away that, you're meant to pierce on this fight. Pierce is not a super great buff, but it is what it is. And then Frey nerfs greens, which you can get around. Magic attack resistance by 20. Not a percentage, just 20. I'm sure that's an oversight. Seal's Vengeance skills, so good luck with that. And then Dino, on turn 4, changes all your orbs to green, regardless of what you have, unless they're an ult. So you could have an entire perfectly natural hand of blues. Yeah, too fucking bad, they're all greens now. On top of that, you're coming off a turn where you're binded. So, turn 3, you get locked in. Alright, great. Awesome, love to see it. And then the immediate turn that you are unbinded, that's when he changes all your orbs. So, cool beans, buddy. You gotta deal with bind, and you gotta deal with a whole hand of greens. And it's built to go around the Primal Demon Diablo. His orb change is the entire field to greens, which, makes a lot of sense. Except what if you don't have Diablo? Then you're just kind of fucked, or you gotta work around it. And there are ways to work around it, but it just makes the stage highly annoying to deal with. So let's go ahead and jump in with the actual meta itself, that way you can see how it's meant to be run, and then we'll kick it off with 2 videos worth of teams. And also, because this is an old fight, came out... When did this come out? March? April? Yeah, late March. I have previous videos on this, so those videos will be linked in the description below, in case these teams don't do it for you. Now let's move on. Okay, so we're going to run the meta, quote-unquote, Violet, Misery, Diablo. Those are the 3 meta characters that we're using here, because it's an AoE-focused stage. Jean and Blanc, Jean is... The Earth Jean is built to assist Blanc with using a bunch of skills. We don't really need to do that here. So we don't need Jean, we don't need Earth Jean, we don't need Space Blanc. So we've replaced them with the free-to-play Prosper Rieger, because he is an orb changer for oranges that are unrestricted, and he's got a double ult swap, which is also unrestricted, which is why Misery sucks so much, because both of her skills, both her orb change and her ult swap, are restricted. And then we brought Visions of Colia Jean, because she's going to help Diablo with a lot of support. 170% ult damage, 50% space resistance down on everybody, Diablo being space and AoE and Primal Demon with an EX ult, very good. And then Octagram Lumi, who was skill fused with this meta particularly. And then they fixed her, nerfed her, whatever you want to call it. So she's giving another 80% ult damage on top of the 170 that Jean is doing, so that's just a lot. And then the 30% AoE buff, which helps technically both Misery and Diablo do more damage. So a lot of support, and we don't need 2 of the other summon units on this team, because they are actually fucking useless here, which really says something about that team. So turn 1, it's built for an orange convert, which they would normally want you to use Misery, but Rieger's doing that job for us. And you see, we actually have a green orb incoming, which is kind of weird, because we're running a blue team, and it's so Diablo can get his work in. They want us to have a lot of green orbs, therefore we get a lot of use out of Diablo's convert, which is cool and everything, but details. Thankfully, we got lucky here. The only orange orb already is on Diablo, so Misery's Convert will not have any kind of conflict with Octagram Lumi. Violet is stacking attack. And then, apart from the normal typical things that a blue stacking character protector does, is that she allows you to use multiple skills in a single turn, like Protector of Peace Masayuki. Which Masayuki, he works, because he resets your skill cost. Violet doesn't do that shit. No. Whatever cost it is, you're stuck there, which makes, having to use a single alt swap with Misery 3 times in a row in one turn not very efficient, because then it's, 0, and then 20, and then 40, and then you do it another 3 times the next turn. So it's 60, and then 80, and then 100 points, and your single alt swap is going to cost 100 points by the time you hit turn 6. This is why I didn't much like this team. But we are still stacking attack. Diablo is still getting good things here. Alright, counterattacks, thank you very much for that. And now, this is the bind turn. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's the bind. So whatever team you have on the end of turn 3 is what you're going to have to deal with. Thankfully, I have our orb changers and an alt swapper up front, and our entire front line is Primal Demons, so no matter what, we can convert it. Kind of played it out that way. If you had brought Rieger up here, you could have gotten around it because he had his own orange orb change, but it is what it is. But now, alright, so we're binded here. Cool. The bind is about to leave. So once Frey ults us, alright, Dino, thank you very much. And then this hand, immediate full hand of greens. So we're unbinded, but now we have to deal with the green orbs. And if you don't have Diablo, or you don't have triple alts already, which is possible, then you're going to have to somehow manage or just send 5 or 6 green orbs and just kind of deal with it. So that is the other way that the game really tries to sell you on Diablo, being the AoE nuker, being the one that gives pierce rate and the physical buff, and having that full hand of green converts to blue. So yeah, the bind is annoying. You can get around it. There are ways to get around that. The full green convert, it's gonna happen, whether you like it or not. So you either have to have a bunch of alts that take up 3 slots, or bring Diablo, or just live with it. Which, a lot of people, I think, who don't have Diablo are just gonna have to live with it. And just have a 1 turn of sending nerfed greens. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. But now we have the EX alts for technically Misery and Diablo, and we're ready to go. So now we just need to keep buffing up with Lumi to get them fully capped out, and we have another hand of just straight greens, which, thank God, we have Diablo again. And now we can use 1 final stack of Lumi. Now we're good on her, and this turn we don't have to do anything except alt swap, and then orb change, and then we'll bring Jean in, and then all of our buffers will be up front, ready to go on this next turn. And we don't have, 6 80-point skills to use here. We have, 2? We have Diablos, and we have Jean's, and we have Jean's 55-point skill. And we have a full hand of oranges. We have a 6 send right here, which we could either leave, or we can convert to blues. It doesn't really matter. They're both going to do equal amounts of damage. So, 2 more stacks of Violet, that's 24% extra attack right there. And then boom, 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 and we don't need to do anything else. And because they only have 500,000 HP, we could send Misery here, and she would probably kill. But we're going to send Diablo, and he does 2.2 million. So, ooh, pretty good damage. We definitely didn't need all that damage, and we're missing 2 meta characters, because they wouldn't have done really jack shit here. So don't feel bad about that. And obviously, if you don't have Diablo, things will get a little bit more dicey. But there are other teams that can do it. But that is the Primal, quote-unquote, Primal Demon meta that's running at pretty good efficiency right there. Let's move on to the other blue stacking teams that came out after Primal Demon. Alright, next is the Commander team. Again, minus the single target nuker, because they don't do anything for us. Diablo would not really give us anything. His skills are very, very selfish, just like Blanc's are for the Primal Demon team, so kick him off. We've got Commander Renard. We've got Hinata here, who you definitely don't need to bring Hinata. You can bring Christmas Shizu. We just are trying to make our Commander Shizu do the AoE damage. Rieger, again here. Why? Because he's really good, and he's going to work alongside Glenda, so we have now quadruple alt swapping, I guess. Then Shizu has the full hand of orange converts, which is not nearly as impactful on the stage as the greens from Diablo, but hey, whatever. And the physical buff, EX alt damage, and then Commander Hinata will be our green converter and our other extra support buff. So, I mean, you don't have to bring Rieger, you don't have to bring Water Hinata. Again, Christmas Shizu will work, or just a different support unit. And then Rieger, I mean, he's free to play. Why wouldn't you bring him? I guess you could bring Tempest Elite Gobta instead. He's got a single alt swap and he's got a green convert. That would also work out just as well. So turn 1, again, we will use Rieger to orb convert. You can use Shizu, but the same reason I don't use Shizu is the same reason I didn't use Diablo turn 1, or don't want to hold on to him, or Misery actually, is because turn 2 can be very, very interesting as far as your orb RNG. So I want to leave the higher cost skills with more converting power for the next turn, which this hand is kind of unfortunate. So we're going to run this, and I believe there's like multiple turns in this run where things do not go our way, and we're just going to live with it regardless, because hey, why not? This hand, I mean, is good technically. It's just there are no Shizu orbs at all. So, and that's going to be a big factor in this entire run, is no Shizu orbs. But we'll send it. This is our locked-in turn, so we have our alt swapper, we have our green converter, we have our orange converter, so don't really need to worry about things too much, except for the fact that we get 3 greens here, which is something that we cannot do. So, again, we're going to live with it, and we'll just burn off these green orbs, and then knowing that next turn is another full hand of greens, still can't do anything. So we've now had 3 dead turns of stuff that we're just going to have to live with. Really one of the reasons why people didn't like this stage, because it really, really sets you back if you don't have Diablo. So we're just going to send them. And we do not get an EX alt for Shizu in this run. If things go very well for you, certainly you can, and she'll do a lot of damage after that. You don't need to do millions of damage in this stage, though. They only have 500-something thousand HP. And Shizu, even with the synergy and the physical buff and the 120% alt damage from Hinata, like, she's going to do more than 500,000. Probably only a little bit more than 500,000, but oh well. We are not getting anything from the weakness strike buff from Renard. We're only getting the alt resistance down debuff from him. So kind of another reason why this isn't really the best option for you. I mean, if you want to nuke with Glenda, I mean, she'll benefit. She'll benefit off everything except the EX alt buff. So, yeah, it is what it is. We're only in turn 7, though. We have an alt for Shizu and Glenda. We are going to have an alt for Hinata. Excellent. Perfect. It's what we like to see, I guess. And these are our primary buffers now, right? Like, we've got Rieger in the back. Hinata's in the back, too. We'll bring her in. Probably for our other Hinata. Yeah, because Glenda's AoE as well. So element buff, we use the physical buff, we use the alt buff, we use the synergy down. One more stack of Renard. We'll send Glenda first. She does 363. And then Shizu does 278. Okay, not as much damage as I remember her doing. But if you combine that with Glenda's type advantage alt, it is enough. And just know that we're missing a lot of potential extra damage support here, because we didn't have an EX alt. We didn't really have that many stacks of Renard. This was not an optimized run by any means, and it still can get the job done. And we did more damage with our free-to-play character than we did with our actual AoE DPS. So it really says something. But there's Commander. Let's move on to the final team of the video, which, shock surprise, Ogre's Pride. Alright, the final team, Ogre's Pride, with the substitutions. We've got Benimaru, we've got Soe, we've got Momiji. 2 primary units here. The Shuna wouldn't do much for us except be our alt swapper. We've, again, brought Rieger for that. And then, Elmezia and Violet, we're not bringing them. We're going to bring Water Shuna for another orb change and the alt buff. And then we're going to bring Fount of Wisdom Albus. Now, she's a bit redundant because Momiji's already giving us Pierce, so we can activate the 100% Pierce power from Benimaru in turn 8. But she does have Pierce resistance down, which this team doesn't have. And she's a green orb changer. So that, combined with Soe, you can convert any color of orb, plus Rieger and Shuna, who are dedicated orange converters, means that we have 4 different converters on this team to really help us out now. And that should help, especially turn 3 and 4, go a lot more smoothly. So turn 1, I mean, you could take your pick. All 3 of these units can convert. It doesn't really matter. We're going to use Shuna. Cool. Again, it doesn't matter. We'll leave Soe in the first slot because he's an AoE character. He can be our sub DPS, and we'll send these blues. But now we have 4 units that can convert. Soe, who's can convert anything. Albus, who is dedicated greens. Shuna and Rieger, who are dedicated oranges, means that pretty much every hand we're probably going to be able to get out of it. So like this hand, all right. We'll use Albus to change the 2 greens, and then that leaves Benimaru free to change the oranges. We'll get another stack of Benimaru, or sorry, Soe. Soe can change the oranges, and we'll get a stack of Benimaru. And then when we get binded in, like we can bring Rieger up front, and we could leave Soe. We could bring Rieger and Albus. Like this turn looks awful, and normally it would be awful if this was like Jubilee or something. But we do have the capability of getting through it, while leaving the units up front that we need to make sure that when we're binded, we can still make something happen. So we'll bring Shuna in for Albus. She's not doing anything this turn. Use her convert. We'll bring Rieger in. We'll use his convert. And then we'll use Soe's convert, and he can just change the 1 orb. And now, on the bind, we have a dedicated orange converter, and we can have a quote-unquote dedicated green converter. And if we have an alt, then, which we do, look at that, then this will work, because Rieger is also our alt swapper. So this team runs very efficiently, while still having quite a hefty amount of power coming out of it. And alt swap, convert, convert. Another stack of Benimaru means that our bind turn is uninterrupted. And then next turn, we're going to have at least 2 alts, maybe 3 depending on what Rieger's got. Okay, so 2 alts. This entire hand is going to be turned to 2 greens, but 2 of them are alts. So that means we have 4 green orbs. And we have Soe and we have Albus. And we have Rieger, who can alt swap. So, alt swap, boom. We'll bring Albus in, and then we'll use her, and then we'll use Soe. And there we go. Uninterrupted hands of blue orbs. That's what we like to see. Running the alt gauge on oranges, that way we could rush our alt, so that on turn 3 and 4, we can have a little bit more breathing room as far as our conversions go. And now, we're very, very close to getting the EX alts for both Soe and Momiji. Momiji's got the Pierce, the Synergy, the Fire Attack. Soe technically has his 100% Synergy power, but we're not going to be able to hit that with this team specifically. At least I don't think so. Because we've got, 160 points with Momiji, we've got 80 with Albus, alright, that's 240. And then we've got the Shuna buff, that's only 55. So traditionally, we would not be able to get to that 300 skill point usage before using Soe, so we can get his full power. Not that it really matters. We have 2 AoE EX alts. We're going to be able to kill them regardless. They don't have a lot of HP. So this is probably actually easier than using the actual Primal Demon team from 2 clips ago, quite honestly. And that's just because this team is much newer, and there are more options available now to handle this kind of RNG. So we'll bring Shuna in, we'll use her alt buff, boom. We'll bring Albus in, we'll use her Pierce debuff, and then we'll use everything else. 1, 2, 3, 4, and that puts us at 98 points. Yeah, we would have had to use a little bit more to get to that full cap. But now Benimaru's going to give us that 100% Pierce power. We'll use Soe, who's only at 50% Synergy, and then we'll send him first, actually, and it's enough damage. So he does 540. Momiji would have done quite a bit more because she has that personal 70% fire attack buff. But there we are. There are some blue-focused teams that you can use to take care of this. I mean, if you have access to the Determination Prosper team, I'm sure they could do it. It would just take a long-ass time, probably. They don't really get anything out of this stage. But again, we'll have the previous videos I did for Primal Demon linked in the video description. We'll have part 2 coming out tomorrow, I think, with a number of other teams that can do this. But that's it for me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.